Welcome back. Hello, everybody. It's me, Hank. We're doing another podcast here, Winners and Losers Show on the internet. That's where we are. We are a platform. We are a podcasting sensation. The one everyone keeps talking about it. You might have never heard of it. No one's ever heard of it, but everybody knows how great it is. My goddamn headphones aren't. There we go. I had this issue last week and I didn't bother changing the cord. Didn't get around to it. Been real busy. I hurt my back. Anybody watching this show, keeping up with the Hankses here knows I've been I've namasteed myself into a yoga king. I am like the greatest yoga guy of all time. Every once in a while, I think I do something. The only things I think I'm doing somewhat well, and this is like about a 20% of the time, is breathing. I'm getting pretty good at the part where I go. No, I don't do it that hard. I don't do it hard. But I do try to conscientiously elevate the breathing a little bit, just into a little bit more of a rhythm, kind of along the lines of the meditation that I used to do so well in the past. I've talked to a couple of people into meditating, and they were like, "Oh, actually, I was skeptical, but it worked out. I liked it." It's still hard to keep up. Anyway, welcome back. I know I haven't been out putting this shit out consistently. That's my goal. It seems like the one I should, like, of all the things I'm doing, that would be the easiest one to achieve. Can't fucking do it. Can't do it. Send me Adderall. Put some Adderall, even if they're in the form of earwigs that crawl into my brain and then deposit little Adderall bits into my head. That'll work. Low dosage. Let's start out, see where we go. Let the ADHD symptoms taper off. That way the autism symptoms will assert themselves with even more dominance than they currently hold. Just lots of energy wells that I keep falling into and then crawling my way out of. But generally pretty good. Doing all right. Working on this other small editing job. It's not like full-time all week or something, but, it's it does reaffirm that I'm really not able to do like just full hard editing. Editing as a career is... I hate it. I hate video editing. I'm fucking sick of staring at a computer screen. But here's the thing. I like telling stories. That's so cheesy. I really like being able to put together a narrative and a story and harmonize things or make it flow or whatever that is. I'm a very I have over 15 years experience with Premiere Pro. I really think I'd be a great teacher. And Photoshop, as well as Photoshop, and just getting people into the Adobe suite, except that I think it's unethical to use the Adobe software because they charge $6,000 a decade and they do not sustain anything close to the level of service that they should for that price. Especially now that I've kind of switched over to DaVinci Resolve, which is $300 for the full version forever or free. The free version is like 95% of the full version. It's amazing. It's so much better than... It has some things I don't like. There's parts about Premiere I still like. And I'm going to be using Premiere for quite a while anyway. So if you want me to teach you, I could totally show you the ropes in Premiere. I'm really good at it. I really need to make these tutorials. But speaking of that, that is a little bit... God damn it. This voice, I can't... It's just switching both ears back and forth. Patreon.com/winners and losers. I recorded a production diary. I'm working on an animation. I don't know if you watch on YouTube, you see the A Guy Reacts series, which is terrible SEO, probably a bad way to start a thing. I don't even think it cashes in on the reaction trend because it's not reaction. The word react with an S at the end is not the same as ION at the end of react. I'm not even hitting the proper goddamn algorithm thing. I mean, maybe I am, but it's my animation guy sitting in his sitting in his thing in the dungeon. And in fact, maybe I could pull up a thing here for you. I'll put it up on the YouTube while I talk if I can get this to work. And then he goes, that. So it's sort of along the lines of an animation like that. But I recorded a members only, a Patreon only exclusive production diary. I don't know what else to call it. There's got to be some more clever name than that. But it's just me working on these programs, sitting at a computer, letting it flow, letting the thoughts come out. But this wasn't like a big rambly podcast. Mostly I just sort of describing what I was doing on screen and explaining some of my hard-fought tips and tricks. I did land on an interesting thought that I don't know if it's even a thought or worth sharing. But as far as like why I feel qualified to be a Photoshop or a Premiere Pro instructor, coach, let's call it. I should be a life coach. Nobody had, I mean, well, certainly this is not a competition. A lot of people have more fucked up life, but my life is in fucking shit right now. My beard is falling out. My body's rejecting hair at every possible spot. Both of my sideburns are now starting to erode from the top down and into what was formerly my very classic male pattern baldness horseshoe, which I had made total peace with. My skull is perfect. I spend $25 every 10 years on my hair. I haven't had sex since I was, actually, you know what? Like I say, the baldness is common enough that it's not too freakish. Women, it is a turn off to some women, but it's also fine. They're used to it. They all have skulls too. It's a shared thing. And actually, hair looks really irritating. It's warm. It soaks up stuff. It gets caught on things. You know how many people have lost their lives to a hot dog roller or a ski lift? Or an over-exuberant movie theater employee? Do you know how many people it has cost? Well, not a single bald person. We're protected. So what if I'm going to die of skin cancer from my head? That's not true. I don't go outside that much. I'm going to die of chair cancer. Oh yeah, let me try to find this thing here. While I'm talking, this is going to totally kill all my thoughts. But yeah, hair is thick and like you got to pay money to cut it. You don't have to, but you know, it's expensive. It absorbs heat. It's having an atmosphere. Imagine if the earth was covered in hair. I mean, in a way, trees are kind of like the hair, and it provides very, very lovely and wonderful resources for all of Earth's wonderful creations. I don't like calling them creations. And all, you know, so it's a bad metaphor because we like forests. But if you had to comb the forest, okay, not working. So yeah, I'm actually quite at peace with the baldness, but I'm going through another phase of total body baldness, baby. Still fine in the three chodes. The three chodes are good. The two uppers and the big king chode at the bottom. You know, the torso, where the torso grows most of its bacteria. And you know, I am looking at my screen here to try to get this thing to, I can't try not to focus here. Let's just see. What do I got? Sorry. Okay. Well, I'll edit. Okay. Got it. I think we're good here. Let's open up the browser here. I've been rambling about a bunch of stuff. Oh, it's not on. Okay. Here, click on the eyeball and there. Now it's visible. Oh, I can't. Can I not slide it in there and see it better? Son of a gun. All right, now I got it. I had to reset it. It said a different browser viewer in the OBS software. All right, cool. So yeah, this is what I drew, or no, this is what I've had. So this is sort of the set, the set for the whatchamacallit, for the animation. The capitalist dungeon is sort of the theme I'm building out for my Patreon world. And ultimately, when I get around to doing like that end credits thing that I've been promising, sorry to the one or two of you that are paying enough money for that, I'm not delivering. It feels weird having one or two of those. Maybe I need to set that on a goal or something. But if you're helping me at this point, it's probably because you just see how much fucking desperate I am. So please don't leave. Eventually, it'll happen for sure, because I want to build it around this whole like kind of dungeon theme. I have a bunch of these little artwork assets drawn. I got some animation things here for the thing. I got the flower pot. I like that little green thing that comes out of the flower pot. That's fun. Stuff on the desk. There's lots of little jokes we can make with visuals like this. It's kind of I like the idea that we're all just trapped in hell, because that's what we are. We're on the planet run by capitalists, you know, they're by humans who call themselves responsible. The grown-ups in the room are just driving as hard as they can, as fast as they can into the fucking pits of misery for everybody on their way to a certain extinction of the species. And they're the adults. They're the ones we should keep listening to. Give them all the luxury, all the riches. Yes, there are solutions that are going to become more and more obvious as the dangers escalate of all this overproduction and overconsumption. Even in the world I would like to see, it's unlikely that we can sustain this level of consumption. We have to figure out how to live in harmony with the planet, or at least delay things long enough that we can come up with technologies to fix it. And right now we're on like a 10 or 20 or 40, 50, even 100-year time scale is no good. What I mean is, what's the slowdown here? In the kind of socialist utopia, if we kind of sustain this level of consumption, we're going to continue to disrupt the rate of entropy that a planet can sustain and still cause pollution and environmental damage. So that has to be part of it. We have to stop extracting, because what pollution is it's debt to the future. It's charging the future generations, it's charging the unborn a price. It's forcing them to bear the burden of the profits we seek now, in almost like a literal energy transfer kind of way. It's like, well, it's expensive for me to deal with this now. It'll be even more expensive later, but that's not my problem. I'll be dead. Besides, even if it were causing pollution now, or even if it were to cost me now, I can just separate it literally. I can just make sure the pollution's over there. I don't have to live near where the bad air is. I don't have to live near where the bad water is. I don't have to live, because the first people to be harmed by these things are usually the frontline kind of people lower on the economic scale. Because this is a bad thought. And then I'm going to get back to talking about whatever the fuck I'm trying to say. We're talking about debates. I have a bunch of notes. See that? I even wrote some shit down here with my old-timey pad and paper. God, these earphones are driving me. We're talking about, I got a Ron Perlman clip. I got a whole bunch of WGA stuff bookmarked, but I just haven't been able to pull the trigger on getting around and putting that together. I got all these articles I want to read and talk about, and I'm thinking I might do streaming soon, and maybe even Twitch or TikTok. Like what? I can barely do this at all, and I'm gonna do that. Honestly, I think I would be a better Twitch streamer. I wish I could just like suddenly have an audience there enough to make it not just so sad when it's just me. And some. When I was doing it before, though, I had like 2 or 3 or 4 people that seemed to enjoy some of it, but I got to do it consistently. Yeah. So stick with me. Lots of good stories. Gonna tell you about my bad back, and other stuff. Oh, the thing about capitalism and entropy and is that the pollution, the climate disruptions we're experiencing now, it's not a crisis. Crises end. This is not going to end. This is an astronomical event in which the atmosphere of a planet is shifting incredibly quickly. So much so to such a degree that it is going to become increasingly probable that a planet-spanning colossus of a species, us, could be facing extinction. I think I don't believe that we'll end up fully extinct, but I think we're going to have major contractions over the next 200 or 300 years because of climate disruptions. Humans are very inventive, very scrappy, very ingenuous, but the city, state, nation, state thing, I think what we are in like a sci-fi kind of premise is we're the ancients and we're fucking everything up. And we're going to leave behind a hell of a lot of lasting litter in the form of cities and railroad train tracks. And I wish we had more railroad train tracks in this fucking country. Car supremacy is one of the reasons we're causing all this issue, because that's a great way to funnel money to the worst, companies and worst countries on the planet for 100 or so years, 150 years maybe. All the ways that we could have ameliorated so much of this just by not basing society around the profitable and isolating phenomenon of cars. And I think cars are really awesome machines, but not a good reason to destroy an entire planet. So then anyway, that's just one of the components. There will be patches. There will be small pockets of humans that are left, and they will lose. We will lose tons of culture because there's going to be long periods without power plants, and there'll probably be some sort of lingering kind of almost like that Mad Max movie where he becomes an airplane god or something. Like the kids find him because he's like the pilot or some shit, and then they turn him into God. I don't know. They draw his picture on the wall and they carry him around while he's passed out. Sort of like that. Will there be sort of a new cultures will emerge in these kind of apocalyptic cultish? Some of them will be somewhat peaceful. Some of them will be horrifying and terrible and scary. Some of them will be like weird mixtures of Trump and Christianity blended together as the Trumpocene era, as a guy like a writer named Jeff Charlotte writes, Sharlet. He good interview on the Knowledge Fight podcast if you're curious. He's an interesting guy, and but like that there's a religion forming around kind of some of our stuff, but I don't know, that's just in the American kind of area. All over the world, versions of little pockets of humanity will endure. And then maybe they'll get to explore the ruins of our time right now. And they'll find all these monitors, maybe, or they'll find a lot of plastic. They'll probably have all kinds of weird cancers. They'll have backs. I meant to say eyeballs on their backs. I almost said backs on their eyeballs. See? So why am I, so yeah, but the pollution that we're dying from right now, not dying from, but the climate disaster, this catastrophe that will continuously unfold as we go through our lives, is from polluters Like, I don't know the exact number, but it's from the past. We're paying the price for pollution that occurred in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. You can arguably go all the way back to mainly to the advent of the Industrial Revolution. Because we still live along the there's a word, not the constricts, the constructs of those times. Like, the old stigmas, the old beliefs, the old, I don't know if you call it psychologies, but all these things, the cultural mores, they linger and they persist. And one of those is that we can just pollute however much we want, no matter what. It doesn't matter. Intuitively, we all kind of get how gross it is. If you ever think about how much plastic you produce just from your takeout orders, from all the food you buy. When's the last time you had food that didn't touch plastic? Setting aside the microplastics that are buried in everything, but like, when's the last time you had food that you didn't carry home in a plastic bag? Even if you go to the farmer's market, there's plastic involved in the entire process. Plastic is really useful stuff. And because it's inert, I mean, it breaks down and all that shit. It's not actually, but it doesn't poison us. I mean, it does actually through the through leaching, and you probably shouldn't be microwaving it or cooking it or putting hot foods in it. So it's not actually great stuff, but the reasons why it's bad for the environment are the reasons we like it, because it's durable and it seems like it's somewhat sterile. Like, we can sterilize it and use it over and stuff, and but it's the amount of that we're producing is just horrible. But all the stuff we're dealing with now, climate change wise, all the melting permafrost, the disruption to the conveyor belt system that feeds warm water up the coast of Africa and Europe and England. That's when that shuts down, is going to be devastating. The strengthening of storms, all the widening of the summer season, which means more droughts, the shortening of winter, which means less snowpack, the drying up of rivers because of less snowpack, all this stuff. We can do a lot to adapt to it. We have to adapt to it. But all of this is being caused by old pollution. We're the future that got fucked by the 70s and the 80s, or whatever time period that is. I don't know how you'd actually would assign that precisely. But this is that, I don't like riding these waves, but it's the fuck around and the finding out. They fucked around and now we're finding out. And the stuff we're producing now is our profit center. We don't price pollution because we expect the future to pay the fee. So we get the free ride across the river to hell, knowing that price is going to go way up. And then in the future times, they'll be doing it, but they'll be so desperate, they'll just be polluting anyway to try to get by their scavenge thing. How many guns are going to be around when everything, like, there's 400 million plus guns, more and more every year. Preparing for violence remains a logical way for Americans to access the feeling of security. So we're just fucked, man. What the hell am I going on about? So yeah, we're in capitalist hell, patreon.com/winners and losers. I have this dungeon idea. I'd like to build out more around this kind of dungeon concept. And it's been a thing that's been haunting me for a while. I wanted to do this where I just kind of talk and share. And so what I did was I have 4 hours of me working on it to draw that. Look at that. I just widened it out. It's way better. Got a cool painting. Even leaned it up against the wall. How did I do that? That's a bunch of Photoshop tricks. So if you're like a graphics person, you're trying to learn Photoshop, actually, there's a ton of really useful stuff. I drew this flag by hand with shape tools and with different opacity and flow settings on the brush tools and stuff, and colored it up. I moved my legs over. If you look at the spine, is the center point of the body's here. The legs should probably be much closer, much over to my character's right, to the viewer's left. But I moved them over. And I actually like that they seem displaced for some reason. And no, I didn't want to re-angle the right foot. My right foot, your viewer's left. I'm just leaving them as is. Maybe I'll move them around. But now we have more space to build out this little room. I think I'll do like a Patreon board or something. Like, and so, and then in the credit sequence, it'll be like more of this kind of dungeon world and stuff. But yeah, lots of little Photoshop tips and tricks. Honestly, I think it would be a pretty decent artist for like a animation production company where they pay you decent money. Although I'd probably go crazy from the hours. That's what I was saying earlier. I can't. Oh yeah. See, look, I added, I wish it was a flashier one. That way it would just show up. But the difference here, how there's like a black frame between it. It's more than one frame, but that makes it harder to spot the differences. So yeah, look, I added a microphone with a long little cable. So you can watch me draw this. I actually didn't finish the animation. It's supposed to be a mailbag. I'm going to do like a light beam, maybe some sound effects to indicate that a hatch or some sort of thing, just like Jesse Pinkman when he's living with those white supremacist Nazi drug meth manufacturer guys, and then like mail drops down or something, or maybe something else happens. We can come up with all kinds of stuff, So from this to that. And that's fun. Patreon.com/winners and losers. Seriously, help me out. I'm fucking disabled in all kinds of ways. My wrists don't work. I'm autistic as shit. And I get overstimulated very easily. It's not good. It's honestly not good. So, debate stuff. I do want to get through this podcast eventually. I don't have a ton. I mean, I did make notes about the debate. I do have to say, you come in here, I'm your favorite leftist, if that's the word you use. I got it all. I say everything you want me to say. I reaffirm your biases. I help you understand the world. I offer some blazingly insightful truths and insights and truth sites. I don't like people that use the word truth. It's a concept I think is overapplied. But I'm not anymore. I watched the GOP debate. I watched it. I'm a Doug Burgum now. The guy with the eyebrows. I'm a Doug Burgum. I've joined the Gum Guzzlers. Doug Burgum, gum guzzling Doug Burgum. We guzzle for gum. Doug Burgum. In fact, did you know his middle name is Sorghum? You probably didn't know that. He's just some weirdo that made a lot of money cheating people somehow, probably. I don't know. Got rich. That's what that means. And bought his way into the East Dakota governorship. I have no idea, but I'm in now. He was very persuasive. He won the debate. Doug Burgum won the debate. Okay, gumguzzlers.com for information on how to join up and help him take back the White House so we can make America gum again. All right, Doug Burgum, true hero. Yep, I wrote down the sorghum joke. I tweeted it. That's right. So the whole thing with this debate shit, I don't have a bunch of clips. I have some Vivek. We got to go after Vivek. Nobody likes that guy Vivek, except Republicans. He seems to be emerging now that it's 5:00 here on August 24th. It seems to be that he's emerging as the winner of the debates. I mean, the real winner is Doug Burgum, obviously, and America. When the Burgomaniacs get into power again, when the Gum Guzzlers take over, and he makes me the chief of gum guzzling, then America will truly find its true potential. We guzzle so much gum because that's what those big eyebrows are for. And I'm probably going to lose my eyebrows. And you could say you knew me before I turned into one of those weird guys. And no offense, alopecia friends, I'm going straight to hell with you. It really sucks. There's got to be support groups and stuff. I should also go see a doctor. I need to start. Oh man. Yeah, it's been stressful. It's been really stressful. I wish I lost all my hair because I was having too much fun. That's definitely not the cause of all your body just rejecting all of its hair. It's an autoimmune response of some sort, but it could also be all sorts of other things. Who the fuck knows? Being one of the ancients is just a real treat, isn't it? So a new society will emerge in several thousand years, and that will be the actual achievement of humanity's potential at some point. But nope, nope. We got to, yeah. Okay. Sorry. So get back into it. So yeah, the debates, were held in Milwaukee. They actually, talked about climate change. I think I skipped a point that I was trying to get to, but, very rare though, that the climate change came up, I was talking about Vivek. Yeah. But, so in past times, this was still one of those situations where Donald Trump's presence was felt because he's now been indicted 90 times or something. Like, it's just nuts how many counts he's facing. The chances of that meaning zero convictions is very low. I follow some of the kind of the sort of liberals on Twitter, the kind of Washington nest of the Washington hive creatures, like the Rick Wilsons of the world, the Lincoln Project types. I don't follow a ton of them, but I do follow Rick Wilson and a few others and stuff. Mehdi Hassan. Not that he's a Rick Wilson type at all, but he seems like a nice guy. I don't know. I'm sure he's got some views that a leftist would recoil and rightfully recoil at and all that other shit. But I'm not trying to. But like, I kind of try to keep track of all that. I don't follow a ton of right wingers because I just find it all so odious, and a lot of the stuff I consume via my podcasting and YouTube show diet sort of tracks a bunch of that shit anyway. We only have so much time, right? I got to watch space news and I got to watch astronomy stuff. India landed their rover, or their moon lander on the southern tip of the moon, the southern area where they think there's the most chance of finding ice. Russia tried. They crashed. I think Japan had a crash earlier this year with a moon landing. It's not that easy. Space travel does not fucking work very well. We do it incredibly well with robots, with our probes, but I need to get into that more for the show too, for this channel. But I can't just watch all the politics in the world. It's all so, especially the right winger stuff. It's just so like, oh God, these people are so miserable. I'm miserable, but at least I pretend not to be. Come on. I smile about it. So I'm all over the place. Yep, it's gone. So Vivek Ramaswamy is looking to be the winner of the debate. I hate this whole concept of winning these things. There's such fucking jokes. This whole debate culture is just bonkers. There he is, Ben Carson. Someone posted this video. Of course, it wasn't playing in the Twitter player because it's run by the world's biggest genius, Elon Musk, and videos barely play. Sometimes there's closed captioning for no reason. Videos do play sometime. Like I did watch most of John Wick 4 on Twitter a few months ago. Someone said, fuck it, here's John Wick 4. And now he's getting rid of the block feature. At least he's planning on that, which seems to be universally looked at as a terrible, terrible thing to do that. It's like it's like a commercial property owner forcing stores to not kick people out. You know, I like to upend the entire model of consumption and all that, but we're probably not going to get rid of stores anytime soon. I'm not even arguing to get rid of, but like you have a right to control your space for that, in that kind of sense, and to be banned from, to be allowed to have all the world's worst people, if you're not allowed to block people, can it be circumvented? Of course, but you know, it's just so gross. So anyway, somebody tweeted that. We'll get back to that. So Vivek made some big waves. This guy jumped in the pool and he made a big old splash. He's been sort of trending up, and this happens, the easiest prediction in Republican or presidential politics. The physics are slightly different for the Democrats, but they're still part of the duopoly and all that bullshit. But Republicans, during this whole thing, America has this absolutely absurd election system at all levels, where the U.S. House of Representatives, they serve for 2 years. They're pretty much always running. They kind of take a year off, I suppose, but I'm sure they're always fundraising. I'm sure it's always on their mind. The elections go on forever. Senators serve for 6 years. They definitely get maybe a 2 or 3 or 4 year respite, but of course they're still all part of the party machine and the apparatus and the entire deal. So they're always running, and they have to be conscientious of that. Ted Cruz has to get his podcast posted on the correct, feeds. I'm sure he edits it himself. Knows a lot about RSS. The presidency is every 4 years, and the Supreme Court motherfuckers are there for life. That's utterly crazy. How about 10 years? And then they get appointed, or they have to some sort of review thing. Huh? How about they have to do the American Ninja Warrior course? That would be fun. Fix an RV. Give back all the bribes that they take. Clarence Thomas is just like pumping, he's just raking it in with all the gifts and the luxury stuff. Those guys are all such fucking corrupt. It's horrible. But in the presidency, I don't, again, no one ever really stops campaigning, but these election seasons are years long, 2 years ish. It's still really early. This is summer of 2023, and the election's not until November of 2024. We're like 15 months out, and we're doing debates. It's just crazy. Like, one of the major reforms, the Democrats tried to pass a thing called HR 1, House Resolution 1. I think they were generally, since I'm sure their donors and many of them were quite happy that it didn't go through. It would have strengthened a lot of voting. It would have federalized a lot of voting rules. and expanded early access vote. Like, it was a lot of stuff. The Republicans fought it tooth and nail. There's been cases in the recently where they've and I think I saw a judge blocked this one finally, where I think it was Georgia, where they had made it illegal to give someone water if they're standing in line outside a polling station, to bring them a snack and some water, because they do all these things to make you have to stand in line for hours and hours and hours and hours, because they're heavily anti-democratic. I would say that Democrats are also mostly anti-democratic because they would rather a world where people's interests weren't represented, because that's what their donors give them. But the Republicans are just outright fascist about it. So they tried this. The Democrats proposed H.R. 1, which had a lot of strength in it, but I don't think it did anything for shortening the election season. That's what we need to do. Elections in Canada, I don't know exactly how it works. In England, they call for they're like, all right, let's have an election now. And then they're like, all right, 8 weeks from now, we'll do an election, you bloke. And then the blokes have an election. It's amazing. I don't think it's on the same schedule. It's not always Tuesday in November, which is what ours is. And of course, it's on Tuesday, as you know, because that's what benefits the capitalist class. That's originally originated from the market economies when America was mostly an agrarian society, where this is my understanding, maybe I'm wrong, but they had to, Fridays and Saturdays were like the big local government markets. So Tuesdays was the one day of the week that made the most sense for people to travel a little bit by their wagon or their horse or their human legs to go vote somewhere nearby in some sort of county, central city or central district or something, because you had to factor in the need to travel to go vote. I think that's how Tuesday first got locked down. But they don't want you voting on Sunday when you have a day off. I don't know why we don't do election months or a week, or even just 2 days. Monday and Tuesday would still be shitty, but better. One day. And so there's all these ways they try to mess with the machinery of government. But we need to shorten the season. We need to make it so that president, okay, America's a big country, fine. 6 months. It's illegal to even do anything, any fundraising, anything at all. I would say 4 months. House of Representatives every 2 years, that should be like a 6-week thing. Every 2 years for 6 weeks. You want to be generous? 8 weeks. Fine. You get 2 months. Go ahead. 2 months and you get to do your goddamn election. Maybe some structured appearances on various media things, whatever. That's it. Senate, maybe longer. Although there's no reason they couldn't also do 8 weeks. Okay. But president, all right, that's a bigger deal. Big country. You're running for national office. 12 weeks, 3 months. Would that be okay? Instead, we do years. Because one thing that doesn't get talked about enough, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but one of the things is that one of the primary beneficiaries of this is local news, is television stations. All this money that gets spent, all this money that gets funneled into these politicians, a giant percentage of it goes to consultants. That's very true. That's especially true on the Democratic side. But there's massive payments going out. I mean, both sides, obviously, but massive amounts of money goes out to these consultants. And among the ways that they generate their income and what they bill is by getting a percentage of what they spend on television. So a lot of that money is being just filling up the coffers of local news. They depend on this stuff. And I want local journalism, although there's massive issues with corporate-owned local news, with these massive companies that own gigantic percentages of the local news market. But these consultants are feeding on this system. The politicians are accepting all these bribes, which also generates the entire churn. They're not exactly pocketing the money directly, but then they end up working for the same donors that give them money. Their children and spouses and friends and their close compadres all get, why did I go with compadres? They all get juiced into the churn. There's just so many ways that the corruption happens. So many politicians come out of a career being in politics all incredibly much more wealthy than when they started. Oftentimes, though, you have to be wealthy to get going. But a huge portion of the money is spent on television ads. And then there's also the purchasing print and other ads, internet ads. And internet ads obviously matured quite a lot since 2007, whenever the internet was invented. So it's gross. So anyway, Vivek, let's see, I already made my Doug Sorghum joke. I don't know if Gum Guzzlers is all that funny. Frankly, it sounds like a Oof, no, don't say that. Don't say that. Vivek jumped out of the pack for a few reasons, in my opinion. As I was watching this, I was thinking my listener is going to look for this Hank Thompson analysis. He's an outsider. We love that. He even claimed that. I think it's in this clip, by the way. He's a total shyster, though. I haven't seen much of him. His entire persona and demeanor is just exactly what you'd expect someone who would thrive under capitalism. He has a salesman's kind of quality about him. He's Trumpian in that sense. He seems pretty sharp, in terms of intelligence, I guess. Who knows? These guys can all fake it. But he has that sort of like aggressive frat bro energy about him. But that's what Americans love, especially Republican primary voters. And I think the main reason why he stood out here is he was being attacked. Anybody who sort of turns and goes after him, Christie called him a chat GPT in person form or something, appealing to that demographic that really knows what the fuck that even means. I know it's a word in our lexicon now, but do the average 62-year-olds and 79-year-olds, do they actually know what the hell you're talking about when you say that? Or even can contextualize what that means? So he's very quick on his feet, it seems. He does this rapping thing, which is ridiculous and cringy, I guess. We should make fun of that. But I think that's a bonus. I mean, that shows that he's got this youthful thing. I know that there's still, I'm sure, a ton of racism surrounding rap, but rap doesn't. It's a mature coveted, but I mean like cherished. I mean, I don't listen to rap on purpose much. I used to listen to more. I didn't choose not to or anything. It's just not my jam. I'm more of a lo-fi hip hop guy. I like chill wave, retro wave sometimes, and the soundtrack to The Leftovers when I'm in a good mood. Really good stuff. But I don't think people are going to punish him for that. If he were doing these raps where he raps, like if he was that guy doing that in the 90s, if Ron Paul or not Ron Paul, who's the Ron Paul of the 90s? Ross Perot. If Ross Perot was rapping, he would have paid a steep price for that, which is why he kept that under wraps. See? Works in a couple ways. But anyway, so he comes off different. His biggest hurdle is the racism that's going to be thrown at him because he's not a white guy. But he is certainly I don't have the stories in front of me, and I want to do a little bit more about this. But since this election, or on today, I saw a bunch of links to his business practices, which are all very shady. Investors getting, burned by these investments. He made his money in pharmaceutical technology stuff and medical care shit. So just another parasite on the backs of regular Americans, on a culture and a society that doesn't care enough about its people to prioritize health in their service of healthcare system, including all the various wings of that, which would include research and pharmaceutical production and research and all the other ways we could actually just incentivize people to do what people like to do, what people's instincts tell them to do, which is look after each other in a way that benefits everybody. But instead we convert all that into this gigantic profit-making thing for vultures like him. It's just a huge whale carcass on the bottom of the ocean. And these guys are just those gross, mushrooms, crabs that feed on it, that just, and they swell themselves up with it. So he's made a ton of money. I'm not sure if he's a billionaire. He's very rich. But he just everything about him stinks like any old vampire capitalist you've ever heard of. And that's why they're going to like him, because he's successful. But I think the two main things first of all, well, I guess before I say the two main things is he's very quippy. He just does little sound bites. He's good at that. He's got this 10 Commandments thing, so he's appealing to that religious stuff. I don't know where he falls on the religious beliefs scale. I'm sure he'll probably talk about how Christianity is wonderful because he's an American politician now. But he communicates very effectively the way good con men do, the way good salesmen do. And I think the two primary things, which are sort of the two sides of the same coin, is the stuff that made Trump such an appealing person to these right-winger primary voters, is that he is being attacked, so they're going after him, which makes him seem like he's on the top of the pile. whether he is or he isn't. I think DeSantis is currently still polling high. DeSantis is just the biggest weenie. I don't know how anybody sees that guy. It's like, yeah, this is the kind of dude we, but also who can parse out what the Republican voters look for? I mean, these people gave Donald Trump nuclear weapons. They saw Donald Trump and thought that's the guy. That's our dude. All of that generally just speaks to the desperation built into American society, that we're so desperate for anything that's just not whatever they think is business as usual. Of course, within the framework of not actually identifying the problem as being simply that all of society is designed to maximize the conversion of stress into currency. That's what it all is. And it's all about the mechanisms they use are just mechanisms of sustaining leverage over others in their ability to stand up for themselves or negotiate. Essentially just defining the parameters of consent, which is what a hierarchy is. That's basically another way of describing the machinery of hierarchy. So I have a whole thought about a bunch of that stuff. But so Vivek is getting attacked by these guys. They're going after him, which makes him seem a threat. But the thing he doesn't do is he doesn't recoil, at least during this debate. I'm basically on that. He kind of punches back. People like a fighter. People they love Trump for that reason. You couldn't really pin him down. He didn't get defensive. I mean, he's incredibly weak-skinned and weak-skinned, thin-skinned, and weak in all the ways that a fancy lad like him would be. And I'm sure there's probably a lot of that in Vivek's past or in Vivek's future. He's younger than me. He's in his late 30s or something. But he takes the hits and then he hits right back, it seemed like. And that, because no one's actually taking in information from this. They're absorbing spells. And this isn't unique to the right, but this is all just like spell casting. The fact that they give them 30 seconds to have to say something, 45 seconds, and then we call this a debate. It's just what we call a debate is just so ridiculous. I don't want to get too pedantic about it. I guess this is what a debate is in our kind of bizarre, court. This is like court creatures, the people who are like around. The politicians of Game of Thrones are the people who are standing around waiting for Joffrey to murder one of them. The court, the palace critters, the palace people, the aspiring I almost said demigorgons. I don't know why I was going to say demigods either, but they're all aspiring to power. They're all egotistical, psychopathic narcissists because that's what our society selects for. The people we put in charge are those who are most willing and capable of benefiting from a system that converts stress into currency. And then they want to be the ones who call the shots on all that. So, but they rewarded Donald Trump for standing up and for fighting and for just kind of following his natural character. His abilities are obviously, I mean, as a communicator, as much as he is a complete fucking moron and a utterly terrifying concept of giving a person like that any kind of power. I wouldn't trust Donald Trump to plan a trip to the store, let alone run a country like this. It is kind of fucked up that the only two jobs Donald Trump is capable of are qualified to do are president and CEO. The two powerful, two top of the heap. Just he gets to be top of the heap, or he would be completely useless. That guy couldn't microwave a bag of popcorn if he tried. It's just crazy. But anyway, Vivek is employing a lot of these rhetorical techniques, but he did get pinned down. Let's watch this. This will be our first audio here. He did get busted for his what he said about climate, and it actually is kind of incredible that they even mentioned climate change. There'd been times, at least to my recollection, where I don't know if it's ever been brought up. I'm not claiming it literally hasn't. I don't have the data, but that the fact that they're just talking about it. Look at this slime ball tie. Anytime you tie your tie real big, like real wide like that, and it's a little bit satin, like a little shiny, don't trust. Nope. Sorry. But here's what he said about climate change. It's a little hard to hear. Someone talks over him. So I'll tell you what he says if you can't hear it.
Let us be honest as Republicans. I'm the only person on the stage who isn't bought and paid for, so I can say this. The climate change agenda is a hoax. The climate change agenda is a hoax.
So the climate change, he says something. I don't quite get it, but he says it's a hoax. He is insisting it's a hoax. Anybody talking about climate change or anybody concerned about climate change is lying to you. Anybody concerned that storms are getting stronger, hurricane season's getting longer, rivers are drying up, Temperatures are going through the roof. And you know what they did the day after this? This was taped in Milwaukee. I don't have the thing in front of me, but they closed schools because it was too hot. They canceled school. Apparently it's early in the school season. COVID is going to wreck society after all the kids go to school and get COVID and give each other COVID and bring it back home. It is going to tear through society. It is not going to be good. But they canceled school because the heat index is the way it was over 110 degrees, 114, 115 degrees. More and more that's going to happen. And if you really want to get freaked out about it, look up what a wet bulb threshold is. It's where you don't have to look it up. I mean, you'll get a better answer if you look it up than listen to my bullshit. But it's basically the point where evaporation stops cooling your body. We rely on evaporation. This amazing thing happens where liquid becomes gas. And in that little bit, there's a tiny bit of energy lost. The gas is slightly less entropic or more entropic. I get so confused. But it's not an even energy transfer. There's just a little bit lost heat that radiates away from you. So evaporation cools you off. The net effect is that the thing where it is losing the liquid on its surface in the form of gas, that it goes away. It's not that the water cools off. It's just that the process of going from liquid to gas uses up a little bit of energy, and that's what cools you off. And the wet bulb effect means that you've reached a point where that stops working. I'm not sure if it means that nothing evaporates anymore. I think it's pretty much that. And so you're not able to cool off at the rate that you need to. And then your body starts heating up. And that's very, very fucking dangerous. And if that happens on a mass scale in some regions, you're going to get massive amounts of people just like croaking overnight or something like that. Look it up. Put Reddit in front of your Google search, by the way. That's the only goddamn website that has anything useful anymore. Google sucks these days, right? I know I'm not the only person that has sort of noticed that. You kind of just take it for granted because it's sort of been this fixture for so long. So let's get it. So I do want to just say, he says this line about he's the only one not bought and paid for. Sure, Vivek. Let's see who's buying and paying for you. I don't know what he's saying. Maybe he's refusing all donations.
I'm the only person on the stage who isn't bought and paid for, so I can say this. The climate change agenda is a hoax.
I like that. Someone's like, whoa, that's too far, buddy. I am being bought. Don't use that term in the past. That is still an ongoing process. I don't sell myself forever. I will threaten my donors with benefiting one of their competitors, and that will gin up money for me. A lot of the ways that politicians get donations out of their corrupt rich people is they're being paid not to do stuff. But a lot of times it's like they're indicating that they might be leaning towards doing something that might increase regulations or might benefit some other competitor in some other part of the county or something like that. And wouldn't you know, I'll let you know that might happen, and then the money starts flowing in. And I mean, the ways these sort of feedback systems operate within these channels is definitely not available to you or myself. I've just been around watching this shit forever, but I kind of understand it, and I kind of get human nature, despite having a terrible human nature of my own. I actually have a very good human nature. I just have a very bad connecting with humans nature. That's the part I struggle with. I realized, just as quick aside, I have very good social skills. I can be very funny and very charming. I can be very attentive. I can listen to your bullshit. I can share an interesting anecdote, but I have terrible socializing skills. So I have all the tools, but I'm just a clumsy juggler. I don't know how to socialize. I've always been horrible at networking. I struggle with boundary detection. So I'll say things that are inappropriate. I'll realize it and then try to fix it or something or not, then obsess over that. Or I'll think something I said that wasn't inappropriate was inappropriate, and then I'll get obsessed about that, and I'll think about that for years. My brain, and I research, I heavily, not every single conversation, but I live in my brain in terms of I'll have entire interactions with people all in my imagination, either in anticipation of a conversation or in regret or some sort of reanalysis of a conversation. So Vivek is going to have his turn in the spotlight. I was trying to say that earlier. He is someone that is going to enjoy a bump from this. I don't think these things matter as much as they used to. At least the the ways that the soundbite machine kind of kicks into gear. Because, like, say in the 80s and 90s, there was only 4 or 5 outlets. There was newspapers and magazines carried a lot more weight in the whole thing, and now we have websites and internet and podcasts and sound bites. But the market is so fractured. The audiences are just barreled up in their own little weird little worlds, and everything gets chewed up and spit out in different ways. It's like a gigantic, some sort of multi-limbed creature that is spawning new limbs, losing old limbs at a rapid rate, but it's just got buttholes everywhere. It's just like a big old Play-Doh thing. Just that was a pretty good sound effect. So that's what the internet is now, and it's gross and it's fucked up. So here's what he says: so climate change is a hoax.
It's ridiculous. The climate change agenda is a hoax, and we have to declare independence for it.
Independence. I didn't quite catch one of the words he was using there, but then people were pointing out that he also said this.
Climate change is also real, by the way.
Climate change is also real. This guy's got a lot of coked up energy in him too. Yeah. Shyster. My bullshit detector just goes. That's what it does.
About the climatism piece of this. When I talk about climatism and COVIDism, I'm not denying the underlying reality of COVID. I'm not denying the underlying reality that global surface temperatures are going up, and in part due to human activity.
Oh, in part. They always gotta say it's not just human activity, even if it wasn't human activity, which it very clearly is. Even if it wasn't, though, shouldn't we do something about it? As if that's a reason not to try to do anything about it. That's one of those arguments that I find just like, well, okay, let's just give you that it's not. We should still try to not all die and have food to eat.
But what I'm denying here and rejecting is the religious fanaticism to say that needs to be the end-all, be-all purpose of human action. I'm not discounting important questions like how and whether we combat climate change and when.
Suddenly it cuts to him on a different show for you, those of you that aren't watching. And he's right next to a bunch of energy stocks, a bunch of oil companies. These things that are just like wrecking the planet. And they've known about climate change for decades, these places. They all have internal documents that show that.
And in what time frame we do it. But those are questions in which every citizen has an equal stake and an equal voice, where someone cloistered in a corner office of Manhattan should not dictate the way an entire industry behaves. Settling that question through 4.
Was that all the same? Yeah, those are very different. Yeah, so he acknowledges that it's real, but he calls it a hoax and thing because these guys don't give a shit about the audience. They don't respect anybody who they're talking to. All it is just spell casting, as I was saying earlier. You have 30 seconds, you have 45 seconds, that maybe, and are you going to slip up? It's basically just we're looking for gaffes, and we're also seeing how they can transmit manipulation through the television, and then via the medium of the internet and the way it all gets chewed up, including that's exactly what I'm doing now. I'm going to put some of this shit on the internet too. I've been failing on the internet for so fucking long. I've actually had a few things that I look to that help me keep my head in the game, or my interest in doing this, because it hasn't all been complete failure. But I want to reach a point of success. But unfortunately, when you reach the kind of success where you can like live off doing this, that means you usually have you've reached a point where there's a lot of negative blowback too, where people just start giving you death threats and threatening you with all sorts. It's such a rotten place. And among the reasons we need to work on the mental infrastructure and the emotional infrastructure of our entire world, the ways that people express their own internal pain by bleeding it through their thumbs or their keyboard into another person's screen and, mind that way. It's a very strange thing that's going on with this whole internet world of the ways that our brains and souls are, I don't think, equipped for this kind of shit, for internet in general. So here's what he says.
The climate change agenda is a hoax.
And
climate change is also real, by the way.
Okay, asshole. I haven't seen this one. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene. This was posted yesterday, August 23rd. I think she says something about Chris Christie here, according to what's written on the tweet.
Something else. I was pretty disgusted at Chris Christie and his racist comment towards Vivek Ramaswamy, where he was like the only skinny guy. What did he say? It was comparing him to Obama. Yeah. I honestly thought that was pretty racist.
I would have just turned, if I was Vivek, I would have turned to Chris Christie and said, I knew you would have gotten triggered by the skinny comment. I would have just put it out there that obviously that was
something
else.
That's
Matt Gaetz. Florida douchebag. Looks like Beavis, though. I say it as if that's a good thing. Beavis and Butthead on Amazon is actually a great show. There's been a season that they did. I don't know if it's done or whatever. I enjoyed it. There's a lot of funny bits about that. Yeah, so I don't know. I just think he was a little racist with that comment. What he made about Obama?
I was pretty disgusted at Chris Christie and his racist comment.
I mean, shouldn't he be in a throuple? I'm not even judging throuple. I would do a throuple. Anybody want to join a throuple with me? Come on, let's do it. You can have whatever popcorn you want. 2/7 of the week.
Towards Vivek Ramaswamy, where he was like the only skinny guy. What did he say? It was compared.
He said something about how the last time a skinny guy said he was an outsider or something like that. Because Barack Obama famously referred to his own being a skinny guy with a funny name, I think is how he said it. Because he's got to assuage the American institution of only wanting people with names like mine to make white people feel comfortable. The entire goddamn operation is about white comfort, white mediocre people feeling comfortable with the cultural narrative that they've ingested. It's a very shallow narrative, but it's incredibly wide and it's very, very strong. Nevertheless, it falls apart incredibly fast. But they would rather Barack Obama's best thing he should have done was change his name to Hank Thompson, the whitest name. No, I think actually his name was an asset in that sense, obviously. But he had to still nevertheless make jokes about his name. His middle name was Hussein. Which meant, and then the Republicans always pointed that out. They still do. Barack Hussein Obama. He should have changed his middle name to Jeffrey Dahmer, right? But she's trying to suggest, I don't know. I don't want to overinterpret it. She's just being a fucking idiot. And then Matt Gaetz, of course, and Mr. Classy just immediately turns it into how Chris Christie is fat. And Trump has made a comment. I don't have the video of saying something about Chris Christie can't be here because he's eating. just. The Trump's shit is, I hate to say it, he's funny. I do kind of agree, though, with the comment I've heard multiple times, different sources, that he is entertaining to that sense. I mean, when he does his show, his stand-up gigs, that's what he's doing. He just likes to do comedy. The best part about those things is the love you feel, the wave of laughter. I feel like I mentioned this too much, but I've been on stage. I've told jokes to crowds of people to stand up. I did stand-up comedy for a long time. It feels fucking great. It's an amazing feeling. It's an amazing kind of thing when your joke about your baldness works. It worked once. I got one laugh. My entire time. No, I was actually okay at the making people laugh part. It was all the other shit I couldn't really do really well, other than drink myself crazy. That was a good way to fit in.
Compared him to
Obama.
Yeah.
He compared him to Obama. Compared him to that black guy we all hate. Yep, that's right. Well, at least they didn't call him fat. I would have said, you're like 3 skinny guys, you fat motherfucker, piece of shit, Chris Christie.
I mean, I honestly thought that was pretty racist.
I would have just turned, if I was Vivek, I would have turned to Chris Christie and said, I knew you would have gotten triggered by the skinny comment. I would have
triggered. Now we're using that kind of language? Getting triggered? Matt Gaetz? What, have you gone woke? I love the society that's just like one of the few things I find encouraging about our world is that we do talk about trauma a little bit more than we did. I mean, the root function of our economy is trauma. It's despair. Chronic despair is great for profits. The stress dividends pay off in big ways because it makes people have less leverage. You have adults who never really developed fully, who don't reach that full realized potential. Some do, some kind of, on a personal scale. But what we don't develop, our community, we don't develop the real human strength, which is having backup, having groups of people do stuff. We're compelled into groups to do stuff in the form of corporations and businesses. I'd say corporations. I was thinking about this too, like when you hear the argument that capitalism lifted people out of poverty, every single thing that people who defend capitalism say capitalism did, it wasn't fucking capitalism. It was the collective might of humans, the collective power. Capitalism still requires collective action, a corporation working together to do stuff. Not to mention all the people who work along the transportation infrastructure required for commerce to work at all, or the people who clean, or the people who who do social reproductive work, domestic labor, all that unpaid work for housework and stuff. But all of that is just service towards capitalist endeavors, because all they are is just parasites who control how the body works. You still need the body. The power of capitalism is collectivism, but they have hijacked the body. So they're just parasites in the nervous system. They're just up here in the brainstem. They're just plugged in, and they cheat it, and they lie, and they control the culture, and they sustain the ways of maintaining differentials through all the different types of isms. Because what they want to prevent is human instinct being fully realized in the form of healthy cooperation and healthy community building, and even healthy conflict resolution. As always, these things are not always perfect, but it's good that we're using words like triggered and trauma, because everybody's fucking triggered and traumatized. You're not supposed to be exposed to this much misery or labor. Anyway, yeah. So she's just a little confused. I thought that he brought up that black guy Obama. Comparing that's racist. That's just a little bit racist. The only thing I like about her is that she's into threesomes. Okay. So debate shit. What else do I got to say? I don't think this is a debate thing. This is one where they talk about cats. GOP loves salesmen. Frack. Yeah, I already said all that. So who won the debate? I hate this. Vivek. See, I initially thought his name was Vivek, but I guess it's Vivek. So he'll have a turn. You know, he'll get a lot of TV shows. Probably get some books out of this. There's no downside to running for president generally. Most people who aspire to run for president or who do this, you just get a whole bunch of positives. Might be a little tiring. Maybe you get COVID nowadays. But that's about it. If you're looking to promote your public profile, if you're looking to gain contacts, there's really no downside to this stuff. I guess you might end up in an embarrassing moment or something like that. But generally, all these guys have enough, their status gets cranked up. They get to call themselves a former presidential candidate for life. So it's all very good. If you're trying to sell a book, running for president is a great way to get a lot of attention, to get booked. And that's why patreon.com/winners and losers is running for president. No, all right. So that's good. So funding, what did I say? Momentum. Oh yeah. So like the effect of these debates used to be much more, a much smaller, I don't know how to describe it. Perhaps not big in overall. It's just a whole different world now. My goddamn earphone. Hold on. Okay. All right. Okay. Jesus. I don't think these just matter as much as they used to, is what I'm trying to say. Because everything just kind of gets fractured into the internet world. The internet sort of eats it all up really fast. The algorithms split things into different categories. It's an incredibly good system-wide way of multiple algorithms, all kind of ultimately working together to feed the entire collective algorithm, the planet-wide algorithm of capitalist extraction and profit-taking. But they still are isolating us through our social media feeds and through what we're taking in, which is why I've been watching a lot of backstretches videos. I forgot to get back to that topic. I didn't even hurt myself doing yoga. I think I was on a couch. It's not that bad. I think it's just a muscle on this left side. I don't think it's a bone thing. I've been doing yoga like 5 days a week now, like keeping up with it a bit, feeling stronger in my leg. Like it actually seems like it's working. And I'm generally a fairly, I'm carrying some weight these days, but I have a good body for like physical, like I get muscle fast. It's also sort of horrible why losing my wrists is such a loss, because that limits a lot of stuff, but I got to do better. But anyway. Yeah, so my back's a little screwed up. But I learned a bunch of stretches now. And I've been, I borrowed my roommate's Theragun. He's got one of those gigantic masturbator things. It goes like, it's this big heavy hitter thingy. It's not a masturbator thing. But, if you were really, really into it, Jesus, don't try it. That's too much. I think it's a bit forceful. Even if you're into, don't do that. Good. Family show. So yeah, pundit, I wrote down pundit prom. But in a sense, though, having a good performance on this can, I guess, shift a little bit of the funding that you get in the next week or two. Maybe there's maybe some momentum. Maybe you'll get booked on a show. I mean, so it's not completely useless, but it's certainly not about presenting information or giving people measured responses and giving people honest, good faith answers. It's all just about, can I cast a better spell than the next guy? Can I survive this weird encounter? Internet debate is sort of similar in that way, not to the same degree as televised stuff like this, but internet debate shows also, they're not really about the information you're sort of sending across. I think it's actually good for people to go on debate shows, I guess. I'm not sure how I feel about doing it with someone. I feel like I could defend my cases and stuff, but it just feels so aggressive and kind of, I'd rather have a conversation and space to kind of like expand on ideas and to slow down into different topics and take diversions and stuff, as opposed to just trying to score that dunk on another person. It seems kind of all just part of the kind of scatterbrained culture that we're in right now. And it seems like it's only going to get worse, especially with long COVID. I mean, we're all going to get fucking COVID at least once more in our lives. I don't know how you can avoid it. Probably more than that. And each time your chances of getting it go up and up and up and up and up. You know, I don't know. I think I had COVID at the beginning, though. I think I had it in January 2020. So anyway, all right, let's just watch this part. We're already over an hour, and we don't have that much more here. I just have a couple things. Bream. Fox Straight News anchor, this is from Liz Power on Twitter. Anchor Shannon Bream spreads litter boxes in school hoax. Meow, meow.
Shannon, this seems, ridiculous is an understatement. She's a professor, she's an author, and it seems that she's influential in that community. How can that be
Sorry. Look at the chyron. Kids can identify as Tootsie Roll Pops. You hear that, America? Is your kid identifying as a Charleston Chew? Be careful. Is he identifying as a Skol? What's the one with the, not nougat? It's got toffee, the hard toffee inside a chocolate sleeve. Which one is that? Maybe a Baby Ruth. That is just horrifying. These fucking liberals, these lefties, goddamn Joe Biden. Now my kid thinks he's a Tootsie Roll. What am I supposed to do about this? This is why children should be owned by their parents and sent to child abuse academy over there down at the church, like in the old days. They still do that, by the way. They ain't slow that one down. Nobody ever talks about that fucking issue.
This shows such a disconnect with everyday Americans. I think you can have conversations and debates over LGBTQ plus issues, and people want to have respectful conversations about that. But when you tell a kid they can be a Tootsie Pop, where I live in the Washington area, I have a lot of Northern Virginia moms who have kids in school who have told me that there are schools who are now having to put litter boxes in for kids who identify as cats.
That's it. That's true. That's very true. Meow, meow. Kids want to just get... This one's been going on forever. You hear this repeated all over the place in content that I come across, at least. But it gets repeated. Why wouldn't you want to be a cat? They get to sleep all day. They can lick their own genitals. It's the best of all worlds. Pooping in a stinky box of small clay particles that kick up dust into your small cat face. I got a cat litter box. Did she climb up on the thing? Oh, God damn it. Ooh, nope. That was a risky turnaround there. No, I want her in a shot. I get disappointed when this cat's not up on the thing. Get up on a shot. Get up there. Climb up. We got a YouTube video to make. She's actually doing super adorable little bendy stuff. She's going, oh. Because I finally gave her attention. Yeah. That's Fox News. Recently, August 24th, worrying about cat. So when people hear this, oh dear, they're doing it again, Larry. Cat boxes. When we were in school, boys were either men or gay. That's all we ever were. But nowadays, kids are just pooping out little hair-filled nugget packets called cat shit. And it's got that toxoplasmosis in it. Every pregnant girl in high school is dying now. They think they're a knee-high to it. That's it. I'm trying to.
And I think most parents at home are like, well, we've lost the storyline here.
Yeah.
Some legitimate conversations to have. But when you spin off this far, you're going to lose most Americans.
Tootsie Pops. They put Tootsie Pops on the... I don't call them Tootsie Roll Pops. I used to eat those. Those are good. You ended up just getting frustrated. Just bite down on it.
Will be backlash for people who think you've completely lost it.
Yeah.
Shannon.
Yeah. They got those Tootsie Roll kids. You got the cat kids. What's next? Kids who want dignity. Kids who want to express their heartfelt, complex human internal world externally and have that recognized with safety and security. Oh, I'm old enough to remember not having to go through violence training, where I got dosed by a local violence officer during a simulation of being murdered by someone else. That's when boys were men and men were gay. When I went to school, we had to hide from tornadoes. We had to do tornado training. I didn't have to do nuclear training. They did nuclear training. Always anything to keep you scared. I think learning what to do during a tornado is probably somewhat sensible. Just like getting under your desk, putting your head, you know. But now they're just like, oh, just pick out, make sure you throw the cat. But wouldn't a cat box be a good thing in a school shooter situation? By the way, it'd be a great weapon to fling it at the school shooter. Pro wrestling taught me that one. Or fighting on the beach, or near a handful of dust. Dust is the best weapon. No samurai can dodge dust. Ha ha! You are now blinded and upset. You have been suddenly incapacitated by my dust move. Well, that's what cat boxes are perfect for. I will sell you some fucking cat litter. I built a beautiful custom double sifter. The bottom tray is like you know, that gray carry tote that busboys use at restaurants. It's one of those. That's what they're for. But the cat box I have fits in that, so I drilled a bunch of holes in the cat box, and I elevate the cat box using these like other pieces of plastic. And I got this called chicken crate. I don't know what it's called. It's the white crate stuff that they put in the lights. I used to use them for fish tanks. I designed and built a fucking double sifting cat box. It's really beautiful. It works incredibly well, but it produces, and I use the pellets. So you either get the clay with the powdery clay clumpy shit that's got a bunch of chemicals and like anti-odor shit in it, or these pellets. I guess you can buy them. They sell them for like furnaces and stuff. They're just like processed pellets, sawdust turned into pellets. And the cat loves it. She's never not shat in the box. She's really good about it. Aren't you? Aren't you good about the cat box? Look at her. She just stretched out. She's so desperate for attention. Somebody adopt this fucking cat. She needs better than what I can provide. So anyway, I have bags of fucking cat litter. I fill up this one bag thing, this garbage bag. I put it in there. And when I'm shaking it, I get wafted in the face by a big cloud of ammonia from my sawdust, piss-soaked sawdust that is produced by these pellets disintegrating under the relentless production of cat urine that this thing does. She's alive every day. Every fucking day, man. Pet me, feed me. I can't do it. I mean, I do, but I'd rather not. I'm not a cat guy. I love her to death, and I will cry like a little bitch. I'm sorry. I will cry like a big grown man. I'm going to cry I'm starting to tear myself up just talking about it. I know it's going to be a really emotional day for me. I have a lot invested in this poor animal, but I'm super broke. It hurts for me to get down on the floor because my fucking hands. I mean, I've gotten better about, I'm good at using my fists now. It's just not a good situation. I don't want all the responsibility. I'd have to borrow money if she gets hurt. You know what I mean? If I have to do some vet stuff, that's just irresponsible. It's a terrible situation. And that's why I'm enrolling her in my local high school, so she can prove these freaks right. This set is also the show that's called Outnumbered. It's one where there's one of the dominant gender, the good gender. And guess what? He's in danger. It's a horror set. It's a premise for every horror film. The core of all horror is isolation. It's being the only one there. And there's no help. And your cell phone, every movie, in order to be watchable, I tweeted this, but every movie has to start, if it takes place since like smartphones and shit, every character in every movie has to go like this. It has to go, signal's not working. Phone's not working. Then they put the phone down, and now you can have a movie where people talk to each other. Or the movies are usually just about people texting, so you get to read the on-screen text, which, by the way, I would be very good at doing that animation. And then going crazy based on social media stuff. There's also movies like that, too. Stalkers and all kinds of stuff. But, yeah, that's why the 90s, that's why movies set in the 90s are going to be a mainstay. Because we have enough, stuff that's around to build the sets out fairly easily, and we don't have to have fucking cell phone conversations all the time. But yes, this is a horror set right here because you can probably already tell the man is outnumbered by the weak gender, but in groups, in packs. They're dangerous. And they have nice hot legs with their well manicured shoes and stuff. And that makes people's IQ go down when they look at it. And they point their legs at you. Look at this guy.
And
now he's
this scene.
The one on the left there, she's wearing pants, which are slender pants, but they mean that this is not the pack at full force. Normally it is all above the knee skirts. I know I'm in dangerous territory here with my how I am being. And they also, I'm pretty sure this is a rule. I think this came out, but they're not allowed to wear, they all have to wear like monochrome stuff. They have to wear, they don't wear a lot of busy patterns, I guess, is what I imagine is the case. At least from what I can remember. You got to have those newscaster legs and those single color dress / pantsuit thingies. But the man can wear the traditional garb of a rich asshole, which is a suit. Suits are fairly comfortable. We did design a world where the women have to put on all kinds of extra work and expense and effort and toil and emotional investment and discomfort and inability to run or flee or chase. And that's how women's clothing looks. And they have to paint it, do art drawings on their faces every day. You know, I'm not trying to say like I'm against that. Hey, if men did that, that's great. I think it's fine. Humans, you have to kind of come to terms with the fact that humans want to adorn themselves with different things. I don't think I could persuade people out of that. I find it very distracting. I think makeup is just like, ugh. I definitely would be one of those ladies that didn't do makeup. I'd be like, I'm not doing fucking makeup. What are you, crazy? Although I am thinking about drawing back all my hair when it all falls out. Getting it inside the nose will be tough. But men's clothing tend to be pretty breathable. Wool suits it's like really thin, nice wool. They're comfortable. I've worn a suit. It's been years. What the fuck am I talking about? But yeah, they're out now. He's outnumbered by the dangerous ones. Okay. And wouldn't we all like to be in that position? See, they're hitting you on all these different levels. I want to hear you talk about the cat box again.
Have a lot of Northern Virginia moms who have kids in school who have told me that there are schools who are now having to put litter boxes in for kids who identify as cats.
It's going too far. It's going too far. They had to install a 10,000 gallon tank because one of the kids at the local school identified as a manatee. And manatees only eat grasses that grow on the bottom of the Florida Keys, Everglades and stuff. And this child has to ooze out 14 gallons of pee-soaked manatee poop into this 10,000 gallon pool. And they did it because of the woke mafia, the leftist mind virus or whatever. This is such fucking bullshit. Kids can be gender hybrids. Look at that. Look, one of the ways there's so much to think about with the gender stuff. There's lots of stuff to say. It sucks that, from what I can tell, and I hope I'm wrong, and in some places I'm sure I am, but it really sucks that for so many people, their education on the nuances of gender come from the right, from bad faith sources, from the machine that is being spun up, which is proven to be part of Nazi social control and hopefully not the advanced wave of escalation, which is what it seems to be. Because then they also hear him talking about maybe banning interracial marriage, or maybe making it so that gay people can't get married, or, you know, putting people back in the closet where there's consequences if a teacher is discovered. If they mention that he mentions his husband, that might end up becoming part of a big problem because they talked about what he did over the weekend or something, like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's not just for trans people, and it's horrifying enough that that's enough that we should be, you know, rallying to defend people. But one of the ways I think about it too is like, so we have all these I was kind of saying this earlier a little bit, but like we have all these old shitty ideas, old notions about what mental illness is. And you can't necessarily say that they were good at any point. Meaning like this is sort of I'm grateful to be alive with my mental issues now than in other eras of time, because I'm might not have been able to even get as far as I have. I was undiagnosed autistic I'm late identified. I'm late diagnosed. I'm self-diagnosed. I can't afford to get formally diagnosed. I have no doubt at all based on all the reading all the research I've done. But anyway, like, we've made progress on mental stuff. We are doing better about that. Inherently, it's a sloppy process. There's no way you could nail it with every single little step forward. There's going to be movement in directions that are perhaps require correction later. I could take lots of different forms. But on a broader notion, though, all these old ideas, the things we're kind of cursed with, the things that we have to still, like the shame that's applied, that we apply to ourselves, all that stuff is sort of just like incredibly effective forms of self-policing in order to benefit those who benefit, so who are at the top, who benefit from the status quo. The shame, the guilt, the Catholic Church. I've never met a person who was a former Catholic or who was grown up Catholic. Generally, I mean, some people stick with it. Some people find it totally palatable and they keep it up or whatever. But it's a guilt-based thing. It's a completely guilt. You're guilt-ridden. You're forced to go to these confessions. You know, lots of people talk about their childhoods in Catholic school, Catholic churches where they had to do confessions, where they felt obligated to make stuff up because they knew that if they didn't, that they would be that would cause, unwelcome attention. So they had to lie because they knew they had to perform guilt. And sometimes they had something they did feel guilty about, but they shouldn't have been made to feel guilty about it. It's just so distorting. I said that word weird. It warps people. All these ways these societal things are imposed on us, and all these bad ideas from the past, all this stuff that we're burdened with, and that each generation that goes by, it doesn't happen automatically, but it does seem to be happening, is that we one generation to the next can be better. And that's what they're trying to disrupt. That's why they don't like public education. This is what underpins their entire movement against teachers' unions. And because that came up during the debate a bunch. It was like they want to wreck the teachers' unions. One of them said they want to break the back of teachers' unions. Very violent. And I've heard that for a long time. My dad's conservative. I've been around his friends and stuff. I've heard him bitching about the teachers' unions, as if the people who dedicate their lives to educating your children are coming from a bad place and should be scorned. Because what they resent is the notion, it's a little bit multifaceted, but it's the notion that there's a public interest in providing quality education to your children. Now, modern America, our school system is basically designed to be babysitters to train us into being obedient consumers, basically, channeling George Carlin. But also to give parents some place to park their children for the day so that they can go to work. We're not about spending time with our families and our kids. We're about having to go to work because we're compelled to by this crazy system, especially as expenses are going up and up and up and up. They need to squeeze the blood out of the rock as much as they can. So their attack against public school, their animus towards it, is about resenting that children have rights and that children can be, it can expand the notion of their sovereignty over themselves. And to some degree, there is a line there, and that is what's being negotiated. And and it's not being negotiated in good faith. It's being negotiated through bigotry, through the cultural conditioning that they're afraid they're losing, that they are losing, that they should be rightfully losing. But it's not that easy thing to wrap your head around intuitively. One of the major problems with society evolving from the binary, males are this, females are this, strict definitions. A lot of people fall outside those categories. I think of myself as being a fairly masculine presenting person, and I'm not I don't shy away from that. My favorite things are fucking and woodworking. You know what I'm saying? I'm so sad I can't do as much. I can do a little woodworking with my wrist, but God, it's such a loss. But I've never felt comfortable within the masculine thing. I mean, it always seemed to me just exhausting just to observe it. All the guys around me in all these different situations in my life throughout my years. I played cello in 6th grade. Okay. No, I mean, I've been around a lot of douchebags. Okay. I can maybe not these days, but I can code switch into douchebag pretty easily. I've had some fun with a lot of douchebags. Back when I lived in Chicago, I was on 4 softball teams for a good stretch for several years. Maybe like 2 of those years I was 4, but like it was at least 2 or 3 softball teams a week. But there was one where I was one week where I played 4 nights a week on 4 different softball teams, including a couple co-ed, like a couple mixed ones, which was a lot of fun. A lot of drinking. Been in a lot of bars. Stand-up comedy. You know, so we've all had our own journey through the masculinosphere. And I find it always so fucking exhausting because they're so scared. They're always just so fucking insecure. Not every single person. And people generally can land into authentic spaces. But whether you realize it or not, how much conformity you have been kind of had imposed via just general social pressure, peer pressure. And part of the issue is that it's more complicated to actually recognize the blending of human gender and the language around it. And it's really unfortunate, though, that a lot of people are getting their education from it, not from sources who are teaching the nuance and teaching the honest, good faith science that there are intersex people. I don't know about it, but like my model for it is a binary star system where you have 2 poles. And within those, masculine, feminine, you can kind of, although I think that eventually maybe there's a world where those phrases don't necessarily even apply. Or if they do, they're in completely different, the context is totally different. Because you have very masculine women, you have very feminine men. You have very masculine men, that's a little bit it's oversimplified. But there's motion to a star system. I mean, you can orbit one or the other, but you can also orbit the other if you flow that way. That's okay to flow that way. And some people happen to be chemically, biologically, like internally, their heart, their whatever, their soul might not match with the body type that our society demands it matches with, because human sexuality is very fluid, as is the variety of just how 2 DNA packets fold up with each other and produce a person. And nobody should be excluded from their own humanity because our old dummies, the old ideas of the past, were simplistic and very useful. What helped me, and I still, obviously I don't have the language for it. I'm sure I'm tripping over it, but like the part of what helped me with it is that like to comprehend gender as a work category, as a way of differentiating people in order to assign them types of work, types of labor, such as with the nuclear family in the 1800s, as we were transitioning as a society from agrarian economies to industrial economies, and eventually to information and service economy, which is where we are now. But what they imposed on people was this really wretched concept that the man was the king. I think of that, and then the king had dominion over everything inside his house. You still see remnants of it, obviously. It's still very influential. The castle doctrine, which is where it's like okay to commit violence against people and stuff. And I'm not even against committing violence against someone who invades my home. I'm not a pacifist. But so much violence was vectored through the family because of that, because of the dominion of the father over his wife and everything that came out of her, including the children and her sneezes. Why did I have to try to make a joke there? Because all this work had to be performed in the house, too. All in service of the capitalists, by the way. Social reproduction, raising the kids, cleaning the floors. It sucks to do all that work. It fucking sucks. And that's also partially why living alone, why the isolation of our world, the atomization of us into our own little things, and then we get all fucked up emotionally, that we struggle to form relationships and live in pair bonds or communal situations. You end up having to do all your own housework. So there's that's a tax that you don't realize you're paying. I'm not talking like there's a reason they wanted to have control, because it sucks to do all that work. It wasn't, I mean, yes, in some cases, everything is kind of complex and individuated too. So certainly there were definitely, not all male female marriages were exactly what I'm describing. If you were very lucky, you, as a woman, your husband also helped around the house and did stuff too. And we have different things and different skills and all that other stuff. Always goes back to my whole dream of being the house husband for a group of horny witches. Horny. I want 7, but I'll settle for less because I have tons of domestic skills. I love doing domestic shit. I'm not saying I'm a big fan of vacuuming and cleaning, but I can do it. I'm pretty anal about it all. I can fix anything. I'm really good at stuff. I have a cat. But so gender is a work category. It's a way of differentiating some people into groupings so that they can control them through societal stuff. Like the fucking Henry Ford had people that inspected your house to make sure that you were living in accordance with how he wanted a family to be designed. And that guy was a fucking Nazi supporter. So we have this antiquated notion that is desperate for updating. And unfortunately, it's a lot of change very quickly based on how people conceive of the world. And another major problem I keep trying to get to is that it's a little, the truth, the reality, the closer to the truth, meaning like science and biology was always just sort of an attempt to get closer to the truth. And we usually, it does work. It is a repeatable thing to end up closer to truth with the scientific method and stuff, is that it's more complicated. And you're asking a very dumb population of people, particularly people who watch Fox News and get upset about Tootsie Roll children, these people, to accept something that has nuance and complexity. And it also requires patience. That's a big ask, let alone their ability to understand the science or assess, who's operating in good faith in this whole conversation. But another thing that I keep trying to say, this is the first thing I was trying to get to with this, is that why would they have been right? Why would the people who we are trying to reject, the old ideas, the shame creators, the guilt creators, the ones who inject society with all this stuff, the people who kind of mocked up this whole goddamn thing, the people who painted the set of our world with all the stuff that we're all burdened with, particularly in the realms of like mental care and mental health, mental benefits and stuff like that, mental community and assurance. And they were wrong about so much. They're not even faulting that. It's almost it's just harder to get things right than to get things wrong. So the likelihood of being wrong about things is generally higher than the likelihood of being right. Just the way it's easier to miss a field goal than it is to hit a field goal. Which is actually a sneaky way to describe how entropy works, by the way. Things that are disarray is far more likely than array. It's really that simple. It's all about probability. So of course they were going to be wrong. But why would they have been right about gender? Why would they have been completely right about male, female, exactly, you got to fit into this male bottle, that female bottle? Because you know what they did when they didn't, to people who didn't fit into the bottle? And some people naturally fit into the bottle. Some people are close enough that they can bend themselves and to fit into the bottle and kind of conform in some ways. But a lot of people had to live really unhealthy and incongruous, which means a lot of internal tension lives to fit into that bottle. And that was really painful for them. A lot of dudes in the closet, a lot of ladies in the closet. And some people just couldn't fit into any of those bottles. And those were people that read up on the witch. I think it's Sylvia Federici wrote a bunch of stuff. I started reading one of her collection of essays about the witch burnings. We have this kind of notion of the Salem witch trials in America being like, oh, gee, they really went nuts there. But like that was partly, that was the continuation of a tradition of these hysterical witch hunts that were usually highly gender oriented around people who weren't conforming to the social strictures, to people who were queer, who didn't fit into it. Maybe they were non-binary. They were expressing natural human variation. Maybe they were, and a lot of autistic people were certainly swept up into things because among, not that it's a universal commonality for autistic people, but it's the bending, contorting your psyche and your personality to fit into this world is what sort of is masking. It's a complicated thing. And that's what I was doing my entire life without even knowing I was doing it until it kind of crumbled around me. That's why my last several years of life has been so fucking weird and stressful. I think it's kind of a major reason my hair's falling out, honestly. Among the reasons, it's all interconnected. So they burned him. they created these crazy events where you had to tell on 5 other girls who were witches. And so it was all about this incredibly violent imposition in order to impose this stuff. And in America, you ended up with that kind of thing happening. Then you enter the industrial era with people resisting capitalism and the factories, and they saw the misery around them. And there were people, there were gay people, there were lesbians, there were non-binary people, there were queer people, call them whatever word you need. And there's always been a kind of evil immune system to try to make those people feel on the outs. And it ends up that people ended up with a lot of like violence sometimes, for sure, but also just the psychological wounding of not being your authentic self here during your life. And that can drive you towards other maladies, addictions, and, dysregulations and stuff like that. So they're trying to keep everybody bottled up into these 2 gross milk bottles. You're either Triple H or Pamela Anderson. One of the 2. Conform, or the immune system's going to kick in and you're going to be ostracized. You're going to be treated like shit. Or maybe you get lucky, you live in a family that they love you anyway, because not everybody always falls into the exact rigidness of it. But the right wing loves this conformity. They're and highly conformist is a major part of the conservative mindset. So why would they have been right about gender, though? Why is that something you wouldn't evaluate? You wouldn't look at and say, yeah, you know what? There is actually, I should open my heart and my brain to the concept that they were probably not, they probably didn't nail it. The people who wrote the rules of society to allow for the torture engine that is slavery, the rape engine that is slavery, the violence. Do you think we're just going to go with them on gender? Of course they were wrong. Of course, it is more complicated, and it's beautiful, and it's a shame that we try to inhibit it. But it's also really unfortunate that for so many people they're getting they're feeling like their world is being perturbed because they don't have as many. This is back to the thing I've been thinking about a ton. It's like this lily pad theory of mine. There's not that many lily pads to stand on. So any threat to what feels ordinary or normal, any little brick that's left on their tiny little lily pad that they have left to stand on, the gun in the closet gives them a sense of security. The fact that Donald Trump is just like them gives them a little bit of sense of security. But it's still not a populated field of options. There's not a lot of lily pads to jump to that's by design. And your conception of a simple world where men are men and women are women, exactly the way they're supposed to be. Okay, some women can have brown hair. Oh yeah, there's porn stars too. We're gonna treat them a little bit. Oh, by the way, minority, we're gonna offer them different levels of what we consider to be feminine, or what do we consider to be acceptable feminine behavior, blah, 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 blah. Human beings are really fucking goofy animals, man. There's super girly dudes, there's super masculine women, there's blah, 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 blah. It's all just this binary system with flowing energies between them. Yeah. I feel like I was about to hit the landing on that one, but I just totally dropped my huge balls onto the balance beam. Oh, yeah, that would hurt. Okay. All right. Well, fuck. I think I rambled pretty good for this one. Oh, Ron Perlman. 3-minute speech. I got to save this. It's just too much. I'm starting to get sweaty. I got to go cut broccoli up into pieces, which I call small broccoli, and then eat it and fry it up with some flavorings and some stuff. I bought ginger root in a moment of exuberance and ambition. It looks like something you'd see in The Witcher. By the way, are you watching The Witcher? I gotta watch more of it, but I dread every single minute of that show. What a horrible fucking show. No clue what's happening. No idea why any scene leads to the next scene. No idea which character is what. It's the worst written show I've ever seen. Henry Cavill's, most of his charisma comes just because he's a fucking specimen. He's just one. He's the biggest muscular Superman guy. He's a cartoon plastic toy figurine of a human. I don't think he's all that great of an actor. He's fine in it. I'm looking forward to what he does with Warhammer. What are you doing back there? Moving around? She doesn't freak out and yell at her. She's just not. I'm not like. She's not actually. That's her like going. Oh. I'll do my back stretches and we'll cuddle. We'll cuddle. It'll be fun. We've been cuddling every morning at 4 a.m. for the last fucking 6 months. What was I saying? Oh yeah, The Witcher. Why am I talking about The Witcher? Yeah, whatever. It's bizarre. I just can't figure it out. Why the hell anything? It's just a waste. Oh, ginger root. Yeah. So you got to you peel the skin off of it. Might even boil it up for some tea. I'm kind of considering doing that. Try to get the most yield out of it. But I wanted to add it to my small broccoli meal with onions. Just to see how it tastes, see how much it tastes. It's very strong. If you ever just eat a raw piece of ginger, it'll hit you. It'll get you good. It'll get you real good. All right. Well, hey, I think we did a good one here. I think I had a few interesting things to say, I hope. I mean, I'm not going to act like I don't think I'm interesting. I do a fucking solo podcast. Kind of jag off what I'd be if I was like, I'm not. I certainly think I'm boring a lot of the time. I think that's provable. And I'm definitely not everybody's thing, but yeah, I can't do anything else in life. I just have to be able to talk and say my bullshit and let my ideas come out of me and get somehow. The regular stuff in life is so tiring for me. But being creative and doing interesting things and having my complex inner world reflected in a way that it feels meaningful, and building out my dungeon so I can put the names of people who give me money on the wall. But I want to put other stuff on the wall too. I want to have I'm going to get the torches back. We could have a portal open and Paul Rubin comes poking out of it. We could do all kinds of stuff. Anything. It's animation. I can move my feet slightly to the left. Anything I want. I could change the color of the microphone cord to purple. That'd be fun. Patreon.com/winners and losers. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for, having fun with me. I hope this is interesting. And, yeah. All right. We're going to do it. Everything's good. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Hide your kids. Hide your wife. And take care of yourself. All right. Vote. Greg, Doug, Sorghum Burgum. Become a gum guzzler with me and Sorghum. Damn, I forgot to make that joke. The rest of the fucking... Say hello. Meow into the microphone. Meow. Okay, good enough.